Hey everyone, I'm Martin and welcome to my channel. This is my first proper video. Did an introduction yesterday of what I want this channel to be about, and today I thought I would just talk about what's going through my head at the moment. So, for those of you that know me, I'm a small business owner, but I set up my business in 2014 because I hated working for people, and turns out that there's a lot of people like me like that. Um, Now, I have been challenged on that previously, and do I actually want a business, or do I just not like working for people? And I'd probably go for the second there, is that, yeah, working with people can be particularly difficult. I trained as a chef, and I'm a creative by background. I've always been creative with what I do. Um, I used to do music. I used to do drama. You'd always find me in the music or theatre department at school during break times, lunch times, after schools. That's what I would do. Um, I'm a pretty chunky guy. I definitely wasn't doing sport after school every day, and I guess that gave me a place of home, a place of feeling worth something, and it really helped me through some difficult times as a kid. Now, I'll talk about those in a different video another time. But certainly during the time of, my mid teenage years, I particularly struggled with feeling that I had an identity, particularly struggled with understanding who I was. I mean, I would say that most teenagers probably do, right? But I always felt different. But I didn't ever really know why. Um, Probably I should say that I did a random online test about potential autism and ADHD a few months ago, and they came out with high triggers that I could have both of those. I haven't explored the getting them diagnosed yet. I might do, I might not, I don't know. But it would probably tie into where I was feeling with things. Um, but running a business is particularly difficult. Um, I obviously did it, as I said, because I didn't like working with people, but maybe that was because I didn't like working with the people that I was working with, rather than working with anybody, right? So I was working in a kitchen that's a very high stress environment, doing 80 plus hours a week, not very much money, not very much time to then relax and actually have time to work out what I wanted to do with life. And it's quite difficult to make plans in life when you're not earning that much as well. Um, anyway, it ended up with a situation where I was going for a grievance, and both parties decided we didn't want to work together anymore. And I left that business, and that was my last full-time job. And that was back in 20, I don't know when it was, 2016, something like that. 2016, I think it was. So I'd already set up my business because I was interested in doing photography. And I thought this is the way I want to go. I really enjoyed photography. People wanted to pay me to do photography, which was pretty cool. I've never, had I'd never previously had people that wanted to pay me to do stuff that I enjoyed doing, which was pretty cool. But instantly running that business, or running the setting up that business, was incredibly difficult for me. And no doubt it is for any of you, because the first thing you have to realize when you're running a business is you have to tell people about what it is that you do. And if you don't believe in yourself, or you haven't got any kind of previous works that you've done for people, it's very difficult to convince people that they can believe in you. So any opportunity you get to talk to someone, most of the time, I would say 90% of the times, maybe even 95% of the times I ever spoke to someone about what it is that I did, I would get, oh, okay. And they wouldn't use me. Now, there was no reason why they wouldn't use me. I felt I could do the work. But it was ultimately because I didn't have the experience that they had, that they felt that they could trust me in doing whatever it was that they wanted me to do. But in that situation at that time, I was just like, oh, maybe I'm rubbish. Maybe I'm just crap at what I do. You know, no one believes in me. Why am I believing in myself? Am I stupid? And I would say that actually, even though that was back then, we're now talking 7 years on, I still have those thoughts every single day when I send a proposal to a client, when I say, to a client, oh, I can help you. This is how I can help you. Would you like me to send you a proposal? And I don't hear back from them. Or maybe there's a client with an issue that I can't fix straight away. That really, really digs into you and makes you feel that you're worthless and you're rubbish. And in reality, I would say that majority of people, whether they're highly skilled in what they do or they're not, probably don't know how to fix everything straight away. But where they differ maybe is that they believe that they are selling the client the best product. And I have always struggled in believing that I am. I always go, oh, well, I'd be bloody lucky if they go with me, because they might find someone else out there that's going to do a lot better work than I am. And that's a really dangerous place to be, especially when you're self-employed. I realize I'm rambling a bit and I apologize, but kind of how this series of videos is going to go. Because the reason it's dangerous is when you set up your own business, certainly if it's a service business like mine was, photography and now doing web design and development, you are your product. You are the service that you're selling, and you put value upon that. Certainly as a creative, you put value upon that. There was times where I was volunteering photography and I felt that I was giving an awful lot of value, aka my time, to who I was volunteering for, who I won't mention now, but who I was volunteering for. And I felt that the value that I was giving them wasn't appreciated. There'd been times where I'd done photo shoots and then the photos didn't get used, not because they were bad photos, but because they just decided to go a different route. And yes, that happens in corporate, and I get it when it happens in corporate, but when it's a point of you're volunteering your time for a non-profit and you're putting a lot of effort in, probably more effort that you put in for a client that's paying you for whatever reason, you tend to do that because it's about a subject matter that you care about an awful lot. And when those photos, or in your case, whatever product you're creating, is then not valued, does that mean that then you're not valued as a human? Does it mean that you're not important? Does it mean that something's wrong with you? Because that's how I felt. And I think from talking to other people since all this stuff's happened, that's a real common thing for us all to feel, right? That what we're creating is us. We are our product. We are what we create. And if someone doesn't use it, or if someone doesn't value it, or if someone doesn't like it, that's hard, because then you feel that they don't like you, or they don't like what it, you're a bad person, or whatever it might be, whatever feelings you get that are negative from that. I think that that's quite a normal approach that we all take. Certainly I've found for me, and I'm sure there's a lot of you that are, listen, if you're not like us, or if you're not like me in feeling that, then really good. I'm really impressed, and it's great that you've got a mentality that doesn't happen to you. And I'm sure you struggle in other ways, and if you don't, even better. But for me, that's something I particularly struggle with, and that can even result into just sending a proposal out to someone, right? You send a proposal out for doing a job, and then they don't want to go ahead with you. Well, is that because I'm rubbish? Is that because they don't like me? Am I too expensive? Because if I'm too expensive, then, or to them, I'm perceived to be too expensive. Is that because I'm not worth what I say that I'm worth? or is it because I'm just above their budget? But you don't ever go into, oh, you're just above their budget. You always go into, oh, I'm just not worth it. That, you know, they don't think I'm worth it. And if they don't think that my product is worth it, then they don't think I'm worth it. And so if I'm not worth it, then I'm obviously a bad person. It's really weird, and it's a circle that it can get very, very repetitive. And I really struggle with that. You know, there's even been points now where I send proposals that I know I'm not going to win, but I send them because I feel that I failed if I don't send them, right? But then even if they don't go ahead, I still go, oh, I must be shit. Like, they're not proposals that I'm sending where I'm marking up the price because I don't want the job, right? Like, everyone does that. They don't want to be rude and say, no, I don't want to send you a quotation because I don't want to do the work. Most people do send a proposal, but they'll make the price double or whatever so people don't go with them. But these aren't those sorts of proposals. These are proposals where I'm actively wanting to do the work, but I don't think they're going to go for me just by the vibe that I'm getting from the Zoom call or whatever I'm having with that client. And I still put effort into doing the proposal because I still want to win them as a client. And then I don't hear from them. And that's the worst, is, you know, you just don't hear from people. You know, you're not even worth the time for them to respond to you. Like, what a piss take that is. How you know, the fact that they can't even be bothered to chat to you or talk to you and say that that's a bit too expensive or whatever. Because at least that conversation allows you to understand what their position is, not just like your interpretation of their position. I realized a couple of years ago, and someone had bought me it was basically an experience for men that struggle with mental health. And this particular experience was in Scotland, and it effectively, it was almost a little bit like an army boot camp. They effectively put you on a side of a mountain. You don't start until it's pitch black, and then they just point in a direction, say walk that way. No one's allowed to talk. You have to do it in silence. You know, you're carrying all your heavy stuff up this mountain. And for me, I'm not particularly a fan of the outdoors. I'm certainly not a fan of, you know, too much manual labor and not at night. And carrying heavy stuff, you know, it was a lot. Certainly if you're not very fit, which I'm not very fit. And they took our phones away from us. They took everything that we liked about life away from me. I vaped. They took my vape away from me. They took our phones away from us. I got clever. I took a spare phone, only to find out I had no signal up on top of the mountain anyway, so that was pointless. But I did that just to try and beat the system, because that was my one area of control. So we get to the top of the mountain, and the only reason I know what the time was because of this hidden phone that I had, right? And we got there at 2:30 in the morning, top of this one mountain. It wasn't actually the highest point we went, but it was at the top of this mountain. And I remember being exhausted and then going, shit, I have to put this tent up now. You can't see anything. I went stupidly unprepared. I didn't have a head torch or nothing. So I'm like holding this torch in my mouth, trying to put this tent up. Couldn't see what the fuck I was doing. Didn't have any idea where I was, other than that it was grass underneath my feet. And I kind of knew how to put the tent up. Put the tent up. Got in, went to sleep. Now, that's another thing, is we were encouraged to be sharing tents. And the whole point was you went in groups of 8, and you were supposed to do 4 tents between, you know, 2 people in each tent. I refused to do that. That was another area of control that I've always kind of felt uncomfortable with losing. And it was actually maybe bad for me to do that, because the fact that I did that meant that I carried more stuff, because I was in my own tent. I wasn't sharing. I was carrying my own tent, my own sleeping bag. I couldn't share any of the stuff around. Very stupid. I went, I took the wrong shoes because I wanted to make sure I had some comfy shoes. That was stupid. I didn't take very lightweight stuff, mainly because I didn't have it, but I didn't take any lightweight stuff. So yeah, this was just the first night. And then what I believe to be 4 hours later, and again, this is remembering, but also just because I had the phone that I wasn't supposed to have. 4 hours later, I think it was 5:30 in the morning, something like that, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. They blew this whistle, shrieking, everybody wakes up, of course. They say, we're going in 20 minutes. Pack up, get up, pack up, we're on the move. And I don't like early mornings. And I felt shit. And I felt scared because I was away from everything that I cared about. And I had no way of coping with that because, as I said, I vaped. I had no cigarettes. I had no way of having an alternative to coping with it. I had to find something within me to cope with it. And packed my stuff up. They gave us some ration packs, these army ration packs, right? Which had some teas and coffees in. I tried to make a coffee, and I ended up knocking over the thing that we're making it in, the Binny tin, knocked it over, and obviously didn't then get any coffee. Can't remember if I ate anything now, but yeah, looked through the ration pack, thought I'm here for 3 days, I better not have anything else, and packed up my stuff. My body ached all over, and found my group, and we were basically pointed in a direction. Off you go. And I knew nothing about how this trip was organized. I knew nothing about kind of what they would do. All I knew was what it was supposed to do, which was supposed to help men with their mental health. And we started walking up this hill. I mean, when I say hill, I mean it's like that, right? Not knowing that there was some checkpoints along the way. But anyway, we got to the first checkpoint and we sat down. And then I worked out what effectively this trip was about, or how it was organized. This guy sat there and told us his story about his struggles with his family, particularly his dad, who was abusive, and did a whole load of things, of which it's not my place to share with you. And I was in tears. I was in tears because someone had shared something so meaningful to me, meaningful to their life. I was also exhausted, and I think the main key point of this whole trip is that you're exhausted constantly, because the more you're exhausted, the less you can hide away from any emotions that you might have. You just have to be emotional. And I found that story particularly difficult. And then as soon as it's finished, it's like, right, off you go, point you in a direction, off you go, carry on walking up the hill. And I remember that there was a few of these checkpoints, and there was another one about this guy that I actually knew. He was talking about death within his family and how he struggled with that. And there was a whole range of different subjects around adversity within people's lives and what they'd struggled with. And I remember going down the hill. Actually, it wasn't the end, but we went up and then down the hill, and we decided to stop for some lunch. I remember looking at our ration packs and going, oh shit, what are we going to have? We've got to survive for 3 days. What are we going to have? And we were looking at like sharing portions between us to make sure we'd have enough. And we did actually eat on that occasion, but obviously getting up after you've walked so many miles, getting up and then carrying on, is particularly difficult, especially after you feel that you've rested, but you haven't really rested. Your body whole aches, and then you've got to put your bag on your back and everything again. This wasn't my thing at all. But we carry on. And the biggest thing that made me carry on, right, was, well, there was two reasons. Firstly, I was like, well, I'm pretty stuffed if I stop, because you're given the illusion, and I wouldn't say this is necessarily the case, but you are given the illusion that you are on your own on the side of a mountain. There's no one around you, there's no buildings, there's no cars, you are in the wilderness, and no one's going to be there for you. You know, your only option is to shout loudly for help and hope that someone in mountain rescue or something comes and gets you. Looking back now, I know that wasn't the case, but that was the illusion that they tried to give you. It was particularly scary for me. And we carried on. And I remember there was a point on this day where I could not go on. I had twisted my knee. I basically walked down this hill, twisted my knee badly to the point where I was limping a lot of the way. And this was at like midday. And we were given an alternate survey map, but we weren't given a point of start and point of finish. We were just given this map, just so we could kind of work out where we were on a map, and a compass. And each checkpoint, we were given a new coordinate to go to, but we never knew what was the last one, right? So I was carrying on with this limp. And then we were going back up the hill, and obviously with the limp, it was particularly difficult. My bag was heavy, and I'm never one to really ask people for help. I was broken. I had started sharing what it was that I was going through with other people around me, and realized that other people were going through similar things to me. Men, right? And that's the big thing for me was this was a guy that was, I think I was talking to a guy that was 30 odd, and I was 20, 23 or something at the time. He was talking about his problems, and I was talking about mine, and we were just crying, talking about it while we were walking. But I think the biggest thing for me was that I knew that they were going through something too, because for a long time before that, it was never something that a guy would talk about. Like, guys are big and macho and they fix everything. And that was definitely me, right? I was in a relationship where I always wanted to fix things, always wanted to make things better, but I never looked at fixing things for myself. And yeah, it was weird to have that. So anyway, we're going up this hill, and I couldn't carry my bag. I just couldn't. My leg hurt because I twisted it. I think I had blisters on my feet. My bag just felt ever increasingly in weight. And every step felt like I was in concrete, lifting my leg up out of concrete every new step. And I remember sitting down on the side of this mountain, and I just said, I can't go on. I said, go ahead with me. I jokingly said, I'll die here. Now, I'm not going to say that, I'm not going to say that I meant that. I definitely didn't mean that. My intention would have been that I sat there and hoped that I got help, or they would get me help. But I honestly felt that I could not go on any further. And my team stood around me and said, we're not going anywhere without you. And I've never had that before. I've never had people say that they're not going to do things if I'm not there. It had always been, I would fix things. I'd go the extra mile. I'd be the one that does that. But that wasn't happening on this day. They weren't going nowhere. They picked me up, and they put their arms like underneath my elbow, shoulders, and they helped me walk. They took my bag off me and swapped me for another bag, and then in the end it was too heavy for me to carry this other bag, and in the end I wasn't carrying a bag at all. Everyone was carrying my stuff, and all I was doing was carrying myself up the hill, of which was still bloody difficult, but it was a lot easier than it would have been with a bag. Still not knowing where I was. this is going through a valley in between two mountains, and whether you're Christian or you're not, you know, the psalm was going through my head as I walked through the valley of death. I will fear no evil, and I was like, I bloody fear it, because I didn't like it. I really felt out of control. I not just out of my comfort zone. I felt completely out of control of everything that was going on right then. The only thing that got me up that mountain, as strange as it is, was a massive chocolate bar of fruit and nut that was supposed to be shared between, you know, two of us. And I ate the whole thing, literally within, I just absorbed it. Inhaled it, I think is actually what people say, right? And that gave me enough energy to go, okay, I can do this. But I was still tearful. I hurt a lot, but I managed to get up the top of this valley. And you know, the guys that organized this, there was like a group of them that were at the end of this trail to make sure that no one got lost. And this is why I know that we weren't just in the wilderness on our own, right? They followed the trail themselves to make sure that every group is actually following the trail. Now they were following us, so like we were the last group, and they just said, oh, you've just got to get up, there. So I'd eat this chocolate bar to get up to the top of there thinking, I've done it. And then they go, oh, so we can't pick, we're not allowed to fix the camp up here, you know, that's where we were supposed to do it, but I've just found out we're not supposed to. You've got to walk around there. And it was getting dark at that point. And my legs were shaking when I was walking right out, because the chocolate, I think, was giving me some adrenaline, but my body was weak and everything was a bit weird. And I've never felt like that again, I don't think. I was walking around and, you know, it's very much foot in front of the other rather than walking properly, because of we were on the side of this quite rocky area of mountain. And then it wasn't just me, but there was some other guys that were struggling, and we stopped and we had a ration pack, and we made a decision that although we only had a certain amount of ration packs for the 3 days we were on the mountains, that we needed them on that occasion. So we just had them. They said, don't worry about it, just have it. The organizers just said, just have it, you need it. So we stopped and had this on the side of on this rocky part of the mountain. It was really windy. I remember it being really windy and being particularly difficult to get the fire to light to heat the stuff, but we managed it. And obviously the sun went down and it got particularly dark. And I had this photo taken. I'm going to put the photo up on the stream in a minute. That was me feeling I'd accomplished something. I didn't think I could get up that valley. I was fully prepared just to give up, because I'm used to being a failure. I'm used to feeling a failure. But the group of men around me wouldn't let me be that failure. And they helped me to complete what I needed to do, which was get to, or what we thought was to get to the top of that particular mountain. And that picture means loads to me, because it shows what I can complete when I really, really need to. We had to carry on walking. I remember it being pitch black. All I had was head torches around me. I had no head torch of my own. I had this torch that I could hold in my hands, but I couldn't use my hands because I had to use rods to make my way up because of my leg. We went past this guy that had stopped and had hypothermia, and I remember just going, oh, can I just sit with him? And they're like, no. You got to carry on. So I carried on. And then we got to the top, and I was like, brilliant, we're at the top. Now where? We're at the top of what's Ben Lawyers, which is I think, I can't remember how tall, but particularly tall in Scotland, right? It's not like Ben Nevis, but it's particularly tall. And then we could see a fire quite away in the distance, but downwards. And we worked out that that's where we needed to go, which felt incredibly scary. You know, the ridge was not much wider than I was. And in fact, someone kicked a stone, or they might have dropped a water bottle or something, and you just watch it going ping, 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 all the way down the bloody side. I didn't want that to be me. And somehow we got all the way across that ledge. And then the group of organisers is there, and they go, right, you've got to go down this side here. And it was snowy. And they basically said, you know, down there. And I went, and I slipped. And I fell, well, when I say I fell, I slid on my ass. What felt like a long way, probably, relatively speaking, was probably only 100 meters, not directly down, obviously sliding down on my ass, on snow mainly, and then kind of rocky, sandy stuff. I ripped the arse out of my trousers, and then I landed in a freezing cold river. I remember hitting my foot again, and I was convinced that I'd broken my leg. And at that point, I was like, I really hope I've broken my leg, because then I can get airlifted. And then they said, you ain't going to get airlifted. Come on, up you get. I'd lost my group at this point. If I'm honest, it was too dark. I don't think anyone knew who was who. We just walked as groups. And I ended up being the last one back to the camp. I was soaked. I remember shivering. I was soaking wet. I had no arse in my trousers, and I was limping. I felt I couldn't go on. And they plonked me next to the fire and said, "Here you go, warm up," and put my tent up for me. And again, I took control, because I was told that someone had to share a tent with me to make sure that I didn't have hypothermia. And I managed to manipulate that so it didn't happen, because that was my one bit of control I still had, was that. And they put my tent up. And I remember the next day, and basically saying, that was the long day. That was the hard day. That's the day to break you, to realize that, you know, what's going on with you, what's going on in your life. You're supposed to bring out all your emotions. And we did a day of like team challenges, bouldering, etc. Diving into water, open water that you didn't know the height of, the depth of. And that day I said that I couldn't do it. I said I couldn't go on. I said I needed to finish there. And I was encouraged by my team to not stop. And I'm so glad I didn't, because that next day was not in any way difficult. It was all pretty much downhill. And it ended with a barbecue. But that first day, the day that I was describing, was, you know, not including the walk up in the pitch black in the middle of the night before, you know, it was 16, 17, maybe even 18 hours of pure pain, difficulty, suffering, emotions. But it taught me so much about myself. The main thing it taught me was that I put value upon what I produce. And every day that I continue to do that, or every time I continue to do that, I'm setting myself up for a fear of failure. I'm setting myself up for feeling like I have done something wrong, feeling like I have let someone down, or feeling that I am not good enough. Because I will never, ever win every client. I will never, ever have a client will never, ever love everything that I do straight away. But what I can control, and I can't control my clients' feelings, right? But what I can control, and what I realized that I could do from that mountain, was how I go about doing things. I'd started off that trip feeling I was going to fail. And relatively speaking, if I was to compare myself to a lot of the other guys that did that, I could consider myself as failing. But actually, I didn't ever imagine me finishing that hike that day. But I did. I didn't imagine myself being able to be broken down and being able to talk about what was going on in my head. But I did. And I now know that although it's difficult, and by all means, don't ever think that I do this in every day of my life, because I don't. I still value what I produce, and I still lead myself to feeling shit and feeling that I don't succeed in things. But I do put more of an effort into believing that I value myself on who I am as a person and how I go about doing things, the morals that I have, the ways I treat people, the fact that I want to leave a conversation with people feeling better about themselves. I try and do that, whether it's a client, a friend, whoever it might be. If I continue to try and do that, and here's the key, it's trying to do it rather than succeeding in doing it. If I end every day trying to do something, then I haven't failed, because that's the target I've set myself, is to try and do things, to make an effort to make people happy, to not do the wrong thing. As long as I do that and don't set my target on every single thing that I produce being loved, I'm going to feel value. And for me, value is probably the most important thing we can hold as a human value. A value as a human value is the biggest thing we can hold on to as humans, is our self-worth and our value. As soon as we lose that, we don't see any reason to carry on. We don't see any reason to want to do anything better, because we don't think that we're able to do it, because we don't have the value to anyone to do it. But if we believe we're worth something, then we're able to do anything. And I think a lot of people look for that value in lots of different things in their life. They might get into worlds that they don't enjoy anymore. It might be finances, make as much money as you can, regardless of what it is that you have to do to make the money. They see their value in a relationship, or how many kids they have, or if they've got a girlfriend at the time, or if they've got a wife, or what car they have. If that's the value that you are, all of those things can disappear. You could fail to pay the finance on your car, or even your house. Your wife or girlfriend could break up with you. Your job could sack you, could be made redundant. And as soon as that value disappears, then your self-worth has disappeared. But if you find value in yourself, me, this is my value, this is who I am, and no one can change that value, because I know that that's what I'm worth. And I know that I'm able to do that because I can stop putting value upon anything else other than me. I'm able to achieve whatever I want to achieve. I hope today, me being slightly emotional, I haven't fully broken down into tears, but me being quite open about that experience will have helped you. If you're a man who struggles with mental health and you'd like to maybe try this experience yourself, then please do comment, and I'll happily get back to you and let you know what it was that I did. If you're going through things, reach out. If you're in crisis, the links to the crisis lines that you need are in the description. If you can take anything away from today's video, is that you as a person have value, a value that is greater than any of the other things that you think that you could value yourself upon. And you need to work out what it is that you want to value yourself on within yourself. But that is the key to starting to better your mental health. And we're talking about depression here. I appreciate there's other mental health conditions, but depression specifically. If you found today's video useful, please do like, comment, subscribe, and share to those that you think that might need it. I'm not looking to make a load of subscribers on YouTube. I'm not in it to be famous. I'm in it to help people. And if I've helped you, I'd love to find out. That's it from me. I'll see you in the next one.